start. Okay, question number 27. Which of the following statement is about a relation in a second normal form is true? So they are asking about the normalization in DBMS. I think you can remember the normalization rules in database management systems. The first normalization form is searching for atomic values or unique values, and the second normalization is for actually talking about dependencies, basically partial dependencies, and third normalization is depend on transitive dependencies, and that is how we proceed about the normalization, right? So 1NF, 2NF, and 3NF. Okay, so here, right, let's discuss that from the beginning. So I have not added anything here. Right. So normalization. So why normalization is there? That is one important question which can be asked in the examination, because to avoid insertion, updation, and deletion anomalies, we use normalization. So that is the shortest answer that you can give about normalization. Why normalization? Because to avoid updation, deletion, insertion anomalies. So what are anomalies? Anomalies means issues, right? Anomalies means issues. So what kind of issues arise when a table is not in a normalization form? Okay, think that a particular table. So let's take a table. I'm going to take a sample table from here. Let's take, okay. So this is, do we have a data table here? No, not actually. So then write just add a table. Let's say you have a table. That table has student details, TBL student, and having few columns. The first is student ID, and the second one is first name and middle name, or second name or last name, then the telephone number, and then maybe grade. Okay, let's say you have a table like student number is, let's say, 1001, and first name is Dasun Kaluarachi, telephone number 077, and you have, let's say he has like 2 telephone numbers. Grade is 12 or 13. Let's say another student 1022, 23, Amani, Takshila, and let's say the student number, telephone number is 077, and grade 12. Let's say you have another student 1024, Kasuni, Nalshika, and 071, some number, again grade 12. So can you tell which normalization this table is? What is the normalization of this table? Is it in 1NF, or is it in 2NF, or is it in 3NF? Or not normalized? I need your ideas, Kuti. Now you are in a revision class. Now you have done this maybe 1 or 2 times, or maybe you have not done. That doesn't matter. But try to at least guess an answer. So what is the normalization of this table? Normalization level of this table. Is it in first normalization, or is it in second normalization, or third? We have up to third normalization. Sometimes we might consider the BCNF, boys code normalized form, but just forget about that. First, think about first 3 normalization forms. Is it in first normalization, or second normalization, or third normalization? Yes, cannot remember, is it? Netuli, can you hear me? Netuli, can you hear me or can't? Seems can't, right?
Can see, yes, sir.
Cannot remember the normalization, is it? Sit me. Which normalization this table is in? Is it in 1NF, 2NF, 0NF, or not normalized, or 3NF? Which normalization? Okay, so one gave the answer in the chat. So let's see who's 0NF. Yes, this is not normalized. This is 0NF, not normalized. The reason is it's not having atomic values. So this multiple values in a single cell. So that is the reason why I'm telling this is not normalized. This is in 0NF or not normalized. This table is in 0NF. So please write down. This table is in 0NF. Draw the table also, or not normalized form due to multi-value attributes or non-atomic values. So this may cause some anomalies. So what kind of anomalies? Sorry, මෙහෙම තිබ්බම මොන වගේ anomalies දෙන්නේ? What are the anomalies that you are going to face due to the zeroth normalization? Okay, let's say I want to update the telephone number, second telephone number of Kasun. I just want to update the second telephone number of Kasun. Or I just want to delete the second telephone number of Kasun. How to access that? මට delete කරන්න ඕන කසුන්ගේ දෙවනේ telephone number එක කරන්න බෑ. Because if you use delete from, or like, yes, delete telephone number, or you can say maybe you have, if you want to update the telephone number, you can say update table. Let's say the table name is TBL student, update table TBL student, right? So update table TBL student, set update table TBL student, set telephone number equal maybe some telephone number where student ID equal 1. Then it will override both telephone numbers. So that is the issue. When you give something like that, it will override both telephone numbers because this is non-atomic. So it's an insertion anomaly. මට ඕන උනේ එක ටෙලිෆෝන් නම්බර් එකක් අප්ඩේට් කරන්න, මේක එක අකුරක් වෙනස්, අපි මේක ඉලක්කමක් වෙනස්, 3 to 1 කියලා අප්ඩේට් කරන්න ඕන උනේ. I just wanted to update like that. So then I wrote a code, update TBL student, set tel equal 071, so 83362331, where the student ID equal 1001, but it will delete both and update one number. So that is anomaly. That is insertion anomaly. Sorry, not insertion, updation anomaly. And I just want to insert telephone number or add telephone number or add students with 3 telephone numbers. Then how to give that? That is insertion anomaly. Deletion anomaly. If I want to delete one telephone number, the second telephone number, how to delete? That will call deletion anomaly. So it's difficult because it's not atomic. So you can't refer to the particular table cell. ඒ cell එකේ තනි value එකක් නෙවෙයි, ඒ value ගොඩක් තියෙනවනේ. ඒතර මොන value එකද කියලා address කරන්න විදියක් නැහැ. Therefore this table is in unnormalized or zeroth normalized form. So that is why normalization is important, because we need to avoid insertion, updation, deletion anomalies. මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි මේකේ update කරන්න, delete කරන්න, insert කරන්න ගියාම මේ multiple values ඉඳලා හරියටම value එක කොහොමද කියලා values දෙකක් තියෙද්දි හොයාගන්න එක ප්‍රශ්නේ. ඉතින් ඔය හින්දා මේ table එක 1NF කරන්න පුළුවන්. මේ multi-value attributes අයින් කරලා. So you can say maybe you can create another table. So that is okay. How to normalize? So if students are having more than one telephone number, So what you can do is you can just remove the telephone number from this column. Let's remove this telephone number one. Right. And create another table having telephone numbers. So TBL, tel, it's having the contact details of the telephone numbers. This is TBL student. And you have another one, TBL tel. In this TBL tel, this one I'm going to write student ID and the telephone number. STID and the telephone number. So then this issue is, so now this table, the first normalization form issue was there, but after writing this, now you can say the 1001, sorry, 1001 having a telephone number, this one. Sorry, 1001 having telephone number, this one. And also the same student 1001 having telephone number, this one too. He has two telephone numbers. It's okay to have 3 telephone numbers even. So then you have 2 more telephone numbers from 1023 and 24. 1023, 24. 1023, one telephone number, 1024. Okay, so this is how you normalize. Primary key column, I'm going to highlight the primary key column. Here primary key will be this one. Let's use different font color maybe, so we can remove the highlighting and let's use a different font color. Okay, this is the primary key. And what about the primary key in the second table? What is the primary key in second table? Is it a student ID? Is it good for primary key? Or anything else? That you can tell පුතේ. ඒක දැන් මේක ඉච්චරම මතක වෙලාද ඔයගොල්ලන්ට? හරි මේකේ primary key එක student ID. Student ID එක තමයි unique identifier එක. මේකේ primary key එක මොකද්ද? Second table එකේ. ඔව් foreign key එකක් වෙනවා student ID එක. හරි primary key එක මොකද්ද? What's the primary key? That is my question. So what about the primary key after? So I think you wrote this one, right? Normalization, not. So initial status of the table, you wrote that, right? Then now I'm going to normalize. Normalize by creating 2 tables. Now I just want to know what is the primary key. Yes, guys, come on. Netuli? Okay, maybe Umesh, can you tell? Umesh? Sitmi?
Student ID.
Sorry, Umesh.
Student ID.
Student ID ගන්න පුළුවන් උමේෂ් ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන එක repeat වෙන එක primary key ගන්න බෑ. මේ unique name with student ID දෙපාරක් තියෙනවා. ඇයි මේ යාට telephone numbers දෙකක් තියෙන හින්දා it's repeated. A repeating thing you cannot take as a. Yes, Netuli, that is the solution. So you have to take both. So you can't take telephone number because telephone number, so if you can take, but it is not a good identifier because think that, so if 2 students are coming from same house having same telephone number, that can also be happen. So primary key here is actually both. So this is called composite primary key. Okay, the first table, primary key for TBL student is student ID. Primary key for TBL tell is STID, comma, telephone number, and within bracket you can say it is a composite primary key. Foreign key is STID because STID came from another table, so that is the foreign key. So what about the second one? Is it in 2NF? Is it in 2NF? Or is it in 3NF? So what about this example? Is this in 2NF or 3NF? The first 1NF issue solved. 1NF focusing on atomic values. 1NF focusing on atomic values and a primary key. If you can see a primary key and atomic values, it is 1NF. Is it in 2NF or is it in 3NF? Composite, yes, composite. Yes, composite. It is a composite primary key. Yes, it is a composite primary key. Yes. So this table is in 3NF. Why? So this table in 3NF because you don't see any partial dependencies or transitive dependencies. Right? So you can write down by putting asterisk, since there are no partial and transitive dependencies, these tables are in 3NF, third normalized form. Okay, so one question then, what is partial dependency? What is partial dependency? Okay, please write down up to now. I think the previous one you have already written. You can take notes on the second one. So this is not a theory class, so I expect you to quickly write down this, right? Because actually I have already done that because I'm giving this just to remind you. Partial dependency. Partial dependency means, yes, what you have tell, any key depends on primary key. Nah. Partial dependency kyanne. So especially when you have a composite primary key, if a key is depend on part of the primary key, then you call partial dependency, right? In case of having a composite primary key, in case of having a composite primary key, if a non key depends on part of the primary key, if non key depends on part of the primary key, then it is called partial dependency. Right? Please write down. In case of having composite primary key, if a non key depend on part of the primary key, then it is called composite primary key. If a non key depends on part of the primary key, then it is called partial dependency. What is that? So let's say you have a primary key A. So let's say you have a table example. I'm going to take some example, and let's introduce a table which is having A, B, C, D, E, F columns. We have some columns, and A and B are the, so that is the primary key. I'm going to make it like underline, bold, and red color to indicate that that is the primary key. Let's assume A comma B as the composite primary key. All C, D, E, F, all C, D, E, F must depend on, all C, D, F must depend on A and B both. A and B both. But let's think C depends on B. So C is there, C depends on B. So not both, but only on B. Then we recognize that C is partially depending on composite primary key. It's a part of primary key. So because C is dependent on B, right? So this kind of situation is called partial dependency. So let's have some practical issue. So because A, B, C is meaningless, let's say you have student teacher ID and teacher name, subject, teacher name, subject, and teacher, yes, teacher ID, teacher name, subject, and okay, teacher telephone number. Teacher ID is 0, teacher ID is 1, teacher name Gayan, telephone number 071. Oh, this is subject, right? Subject is maths. 071. And teacher ID 1. Teacher ID 2. Teacher ID 3. Okay, so can you suggest me, yes, can you suggest me a primary key for this table? So which is suitable to be used as a primary key? Which is suitable as a primary key in this table? It's not very good example. but still you can answer. Or let's use like so maybe like this is not practically happening, this kind of thing. Let's say class ID, and teacher name, and maybe telephone number. Let's say class ID or class is 11, teacher ID 1 in class 11, or class 11, class 10, and teacher name, say Gihan. Here maybe teacher ID Gihan, and so let's say class 11B, 10A, 11A, Menaka, and 10B. Okay, so what is suitable as a primary key for this table? Can you suggest me a primary key? Is teacher ID good for primary key? Or is teacher name? Or is it telephone number? Or is it something else? What is suitable for primary key of this table? මේ වගේ එකට ඉක්මනට උත්තර දෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන ඔයගොල්ලන්ට නේද? මම කියන එක delay වෙලාද ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ඇහෙන්නේ? Is it delayed, or you are not interested in learning this chapter? So this is, otherwise like I'll discuss the question, right? So without discussing the theory. Okay, telephone number. Is it good to have primary key telephone number? It is repeating. Yeah? One telephone number you can see 2 times. Repeating things you cannot have as a primary key. Then what? Repeat a primary key eකට හොඳ නැහැ. නේද? Telephone number is repeated. It's not good. Anything else? Any other suggestion? So this is like class teacher table. This table name is class teacher table. Actually, Gihan has 2 classes. He's class teacher for 11B as well as he's class teacher for 10A also. That's why he's repeating 2 times. So then, can you suggest me? Can you suggest me a primary key? No primary key is there. Primary key එකක් නැති කොටත් අලුතෙන් ඕනනම් මේ පිටතින් අලුත් මෙක් කෙනෙක් කියනත් පුළුවන්. ඒකට අපි කියනවා surrogate key කියලා. We can introduce a foreigner. අපිටත් එහෙම ඔය වුණේ. ලංකාවේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් දැන් මේක politics දාව ගන්නවා හොඳනේ. ලංකාවේ හරි තමන් එක්කෙනෙක් නැහැ කියලා හිතනකොට අපිට ඕන නම් පිටින් ගෙනල්ලා ජනාධිපති කෙනෙක් දා ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඉස්සරහට අපිට චීනෙන් දා ගන්න පුළුවන්. අපි ඇමරිකාවෙන් දාගත්තා වගේ. එක්කෙනෙක් හොඳ නැහැ කියලා හිතනවා අපි චීනෙන් වගේ ඕනනම් දා ගන්න. So something like that. So that is called surrogate key. We can introduce a key. But එහෙමත් නැතුව කොහොම හරි primary key එකක් දාගත්තොත් කොහොමද දාන්නේ? So can we put here teacher ID class both as a primary key? Is it a good composite primary key? Is it unique? මෙහෙම දැම්මොත් මේක unique ද? 111B කියලා එක්කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා, 111A තියෙනවා, 211A තියෙනවා, 210B 310B තියෙනවා. කමක් නැහැ නේ. So that is okay. That is unique. So this is composite primary key. Right? එතකොට දැන් මේක හරියට මොකද්ද? අපේ රටේ හරි නායකයෙක් නැහැ කියලා අපිට හිතෙනවා අපි දා ගන්න පොදු අපේක්ෂකයෙක්. නැත්නම් දෙන්නෙක් දා ගන්නවා. දෙන්නෙක් එකතු කරලා දා ගන්නවා. ඔයාලා දෙන්නම පාලනය කරන්න. So something like that. We put 2 parties together. So then එතකොට දැන් ප්‍රශ්නේ දන්නවනේ පාටි දෙකක් එකට පාලනය කරද්දි රට පාටිස් දෙකක් එකට පාලනය කරද්දි එක පාටි එකක දැන් ඉන්න කට්ටියක් උන හොරෙන් මේ පාටි එකේ කට්ටියට සලකනවා. අනේව තමයි partial dependency කියන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ බලන්න දැන් teacher ID 1 නම් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම නම ගිහාන්නේ. teacher ID 1 නම් ගිහාන්නේ. ඒතර 1 කට්ටිය නිකන් එයාගෙන් මෙයා වඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. 1 කියන්නේ ගිහාන් තමයි. 2 කියන්නේ මේනකා 3 කියන්නේ ශිහාන් විදිහට අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන්. තව 1 මත මේ 1 ගේ ටෙලිෆෝන් නම්බර් එක මෙන්න මේ නම්බර් එකම. එතන 2 ගේ මේක කියන්නේ ටීචර් ID මත මේවා වෙන වෙනම ඩිපෙන්ඩ්. ඒ වැඩේ හොඳ නැහැ. හරි. ඒ වැඩේ හොඳ නැහැ. කියන්නේ මෙයා මත විතරක් නදාපොල්. දෙන්නම මත දැන් පක්ෂ දෙක එකතු වෙලා නායකයෙක් මේ දෙන්නටම එකතු වෙලා පාලනය කරන්න එක ටිකක් කල් ගියාම එක්කෙනෙක් මත විතරක් සමහරව පාලනය වෙනවා. That is not good. So we experience that situation also. So anyway, normalization is about politics now, right? Okay. So then 2 are there. So this teacher name is depend on teacher ID. That is partial depend. Teacher tell is depend on teacher ID. That is also partial dependence. Right here, teacher ID, and sorry, teacher name, T name, and here depends on part of the primary key.